What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Revenue Exchange podcast. We have an incredible guest on today with a topic that we have not heard nearly enough about in market. So, this is going to be a session all around AI, building in Claude, all of the different enterprise AI models, not necessarily specifically building custom vibe coded components, but actually leveraging the MCP or API capabilities in a Claude out to other tools such as follows for building custom landing pages. We have an amazing guest on today. We have the Chief Marketing Officer of Loftware, Justin Anovick. Justin, so psyched to have you on this. We don't have nearly enough time to cover everything I know that we can on this podcast, but we're going to do our best. What's up, Justin? So psyched to have you.
Živio, as my Slovenian friends say. Hello. Yeah, I'm excited. We almost forgot that we were doing a podcast as we were leading into this and talking about nerding out about all the different things that are happening. So excited to talk through some of these things with you.
Likewise, and just to set the stage on where we're going to be going for our listeners. First, we're gonna hit you all with some use cases, some actual use cases being deployed inside of a enterprise marketing organization today. So what are some of the top AI use cases? And then we're going to get into one piece that I think is also overlooked. I mean, this whole AI concept we need a lot more practical, real, tangible advice on how to build and what that looks like, but also what sales activation looks like as well. And as we were doing the prep, Justin, you mentioned business process re-engineering. That is what you've essentially done inside of your marketing organization. We're going to walk through how you've done it. And we're also going to talk about not just the outputs, but some of the setup as well. So Justin, I'm going to throw the floor over your way for maybe walking us through a couple of these use cases and what it looks like. And for those also listening through audio, we do have a visual up on YouTube, or check our website that actually shows some of the visuals that Justin is walking through too.
Great. But I thought we were going to start with my sports career when I was in high school. Like when I almost hit a home run as a freshman. I guess we don't need to go into that now. That's a different podcast. Yes. My whole career, I've really thought about things from like a business process re-engineering, as you mentioned. I think of things in decision trees, like if-then statements, and there's always better ways to do everything. It's just how valuable is that to spend time on. Having spent 10 years in pre-sales, 10 years running product, and now a couple years in marketing, bringing those backgrounds and skills into this role, and really what can we do with AI, I think helped me realize the possibilities. And so some of the things, like from my sales days, the problem that existed was preparing for a meeting, preparing for a customer conversation, right? I mean, it was 15, 20 years ago. So you'd still, Google things. It's still pervasive today. So how do we help enable sales, pre-sales to leverage tools that are out there in order to streamline their research? Why should every rep have to do their own thing, build their own agent, and try to figure it out on their own? There should be some commonality from a GTM perspective in order to build those things. So that was one problem statement, was like, what's the prep like for some of these meetings, and how do you effectively streamline it, but use some amazing tools that exist now to really streamline it for a salesperson. Another one was, like, landing pages and account-based marketing has been around for a long time. I would say even up to like 6 months ago, about 6 months ago through the end of last year, it's a very manual process. The research and understanding what you want to put on the page, working with a sales rep into how do you make sure this is interesting. And it would take weeks of back and forth if you wanted to really personalize the content for the end customer, and then what does that look like as a part of a traditional ABM? But it would take a long time. And so we first started and said, hey, look, how do we streamline it? And we've really moved forward on that particular one. And then you mentioned like the activation from a sales perspective. The single biggest question that I always had in my other roles, and I still have today, is like, how do you show folks what marketing is doing in their accounts? How do you answer that question? The amount of data and Salesforce clicks and other things that you would have to get into to answer, what are you doing, and what's happening in this account that I'm going to on Monday? How do I know any emails that have been activated? How do I know any forms that have been filled out? How do I know what white papers they looked at? That's a very arduous process. So we really said, how do we help answer that question? I think those are like the three huge things that we've been spending a bunch of time on from a GTM engineering perspective.
And you mentioned the GTM engineering perspective. Walk me or walk us through, what's your tech stack look like? How are you actually how are you solving these problems and bringing that to life with AI?
So predominantly it's most of the advancements have been made on Claude. Copilot Studio has caught up because they've, I guess, basically wrapped Claude. And then there's other tools like Higgsfield and some other AI video style tools that allow us to create hyper-personalized assets and videos based on the research and, and other intelligence. But predominantly it's, the AI is really Copilot with workflows, and Claude, with projects and skills that that we're building everything on.
Are you using a GitHub, or how are you sharing some of the knowledge across different Claude instances? How does that work?
Yeah, so good question. Not in a scalable way to start. What we would do is you could share a project if it's chat, not co-work. And if we built something in co-work, then we just export the instructions, but then you're on two different branches. We're doing a few things in GitHub to make things more shareable, putting things in OneDrive, SharePoint to read the skills that have been created so that, there's shareability there. I think that some of the built-in capabilities naturally are limited from that perspective. So we're looking into that in that view. We have only a handful of people that are running like the full thing at the moment. So it's easier to share across 3, 4, 5 people. As we expand more further to give sales direct access to this, that's where the shareability becomes really important. We made some huge advances this week with Copilot to be able to make it much easier to share all of that stuff. But you hit on the one thing that it's like, oh crap, this is not scalable in the way that, that we've enabled it as we learn through this stuff. And we're spending a lot of our time just rebuilding everything to make it scalable now.
Do you all have a AI practice lead or a designated practice?
So we do. We just started that from a company perspective, who's looking across everything from a governance perspective, from a business process perspective. I have someone on the team in marketing who's a GTM engineer, someone fire in their belly, kind of just out of school. That's really looked at this. We've hired interns to do AI things. Organizational alignment and structure is TBD at the moment. Part of it is, I do a lot myself and need someone with unbelievable speed that can convert things. When a rep gives feedback to me on Monday, we're actually Sunday night, we were sitting, before a meeting at a restaurant, and he gave me a bunch of feedback, and by Monday morning, I had it all wired in because I ran it in Claude overnight and was able to run it at 7 a.m. the next morning, basically. Like, to me, the speed is a huge thing, as well as you're limited by your own imagination. So what can you imagine these different things to do? And so I think my gut says we need, a handful of people in marketing or go to market across, sales and marketing that are really focused on it, as well as rely on the organizational, the corporate organizational structure to help guide us into, hey, Copilot Studio just launched this, new version. Here's the 7 ways that you can use it, and we handle the business process elements of it. So that's where I'm kind of leaning towards now.
How are you making sure your team members are up to speed on the latest and greatest of AI, or just making sure everybody has a baseline that is there enough, because every different role is unique, but they're enough in terms of AI literacy?
Wow, you're asking some good questions that are the big issues that I think exist definitely in our 4 walls.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I think like you have to have the interest to be able to start something and to reimagine. And like if you don't, there's nothing that can happen to force it. I know that sounds natural. For me, it's like this is new tech. I'm super geeky and nerdy when it comes to this, and you figure out how to apply it. I've been like that my whole career. And agreed, that not everybody is going to be like that, but like you got to have the fire to open it up. What we've done, my GTM engineer built a AI guide for B2B marketing, B2B SaaS marketing for Loftware. And we have about 25 different categories that or uses, and how we are doing them today, if at all, how we rank ourselves out of like a score, and then the things that we're not doing. And we've rolled it out incrementally within marketing, to show folks like, hey, if you want to know like, the account research and dashboard, if you wanted to build that yourself and not take advantage of anything, here are the prompts, here's the rationale, and like literally a step-by-step guide. If you're new to it, it walks you through even more steps. If you've done something like it before, so there's like a persona or experience level. And so it's a pretty robust, AI guide right now. And the intent would be like, you have a question on building a dashboard, or you have a question on building a deck, or how do you, enhance what we're doing from a landing page? It should all be within that, within that document. It's a fully functional HTML app, essentially, that, anybody can look at or go through. That's what the stance I'm taking and the approach, because I think it's difficult for some people to like imagine like what the 5 steps are that you need to do it, if you don't have like a testing type of brain to it. And the ideal would be, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, here's exactly what you need to do, including the exact prompt that you could use in Copilot, in Claude, or ChatGPT, since they all kind of function slightly differently.
I love it. That's such a great approach that you're taking, and I'm sure others are scribbling some notes around what they could bring back into their organization. Now, if we were to dive in to that document and we go under some of the personalized digital experiences or custom landing pages, what would we see? I know that's one of the use cases, and we were talking about it before. You have some incredible visualizations and even the templates that you've built. How did you build those templates? What went into that? What was the tooling, the thought process, the setup, and all things custom landing pages?
Yeah. So let me go slightly off there. I realized, let me just show you what I was just talking about. So here's the output of this AI guide. And, so how B2B companies use it, but where does Loftware stand? So here's all those different categories or use cases, and how we've kind of rated ourselves, and how we look at them as like, hey, everybody's kind of doing this. Some people are doing this, or, people will be doing this. That's the emerging category. And so I'll talk and show the account research, and, ABM intelligence, but you click on this, it shows what we're doing. You could look at the, you could look at the, the scenario. Here are the specific prompts. But this is where kind of like, I'm new to this. What do I need to do? Sources, we're playing around with like a little calculator. Like if you were to use this, this is how much more you can do, right? And so we're kind of playing around with some of that stuff. But this is the tool we're building, developing, rolling out, and each one of these categories has the details of how to build it, essentially, like the purpose and how to build it.
This is so cool. Was this built on Claude?
This is Claude. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And I see you've got the prompt library up there too. All the
Yep.
different pieces, the future trends, AI models, sources. Yeah, it's very robust.
Yeah, and I think it's that's my problem is like, oh, we just have one more idea, like let's add it to this, and now this file is probably too big to consume at any given point. But again, the thought is like if like I know this is something, or I want to learn how we did this. So the how I've come to realize is the hard part in some cases. For me, the hard part is like imagining what the new business process should be for us to build this, and then the testing and how to build it is like you just just constantly just trying to figure out a better way, and that's the part that I enjoy. And so yeah, but you have to have the interest to at least open this, and that's your starting point. And I hope that people will really absorb this because it's in the context of what we do, not just something totally generic of like, hey, build a landing page. Okay, but what about for us? Like, what does that really mean? How do we do these different things? So it's meant to be in the confines of our business. And, ideally it starts to help people realize like what went into it, how do you rebuild it yourself, but also the purpose of it. So anyhow.
Uh, this is amazing. And if you go back down, you had all of those use cases
Yep.
and the maturity across the use cases. How did you, one of the things that we hear all the time in our events and across advisory clients is how do I choose and prioritize my use cases? But even taking it a step back, how do I even think about what use cases are even possible? You have so many on here. How'd you get these? How did you land on this? And then how are you thinking about prioritization?
Another great question of the prioritization. Honestly, like just, reading LinkedIn posts to, researching things, paying attention to, things that people say that, oh, we do this, but then there's no context behind it. And then just kind of powering through what it looks like for us. The prioritization, certainly, like, is it impacting pipeline? Is it impacting our understanding of pipeline? And is it helping us progress or improve velocity of deals? Right. And so those are the absolute priorities. Other things that work in the background are kind of nice to have and, interesting. And so, but they might be something that I'm just playing around with until we actually see the use case. I've also realized that have to seed these to a couple of test bunnies, as the Slovenians say, the guinea pigs, to just see like, is this useful? Could you see value in this? And I sit on forecast calls and we talk about ABM, see a great opportunity in the pipeline. And I build all this stuff and share it with the rep, or we build all this stuff and share with the rep. And we're like, hey, this is what we're thinking on how we could use this. And it's kind of like the bottoms up versus forcing the, top down. And that's been the best part of that's been the greatest route to success so far is just incrementally starting with individual opportunities and being like, hey, did you know we could do these things? Here's different ideas. And then those test bunnies, guinea pigs, are giving us feedback to improve it constantly. But we tried it the other way around where it's like, hey, we can do these, just ask for it. It wasn't working. It was like, here's what the idea is, because a lot of these things never existed for sellers, let's say, or marketers who have been around for 10, 15, 20 years. Like this is a totally new way of working for a lot of those folks.
Yeah, it's the business process re-engineering in real
Yes.
time.
Yep.
And one thing too, when thinking about each of these, so just to make sure I have this conceptually right, you have all of these different use cases, and then within this, you can click in on each different use case, and across that, it has all the information as to what it is. The prompt library are the prompts on each of these different pages too, so it could be repeatable or all the steps is that kind of how that
Yep.
works?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So anyhow, I see this as we see this as the route to helping folks absorb it with much more context than has been there before. So
Yeah.
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 And then so I mentioned the research one example, and this kind of fits into it, right? So it's like, okay, here's the background, here's like what we've done, all that stuff. But to make it real, this was like, hey, folks started to use Copilot and ChatGPT or whatever to research the account, and like people had great ideas, and they would get a response, and then they would use that, but it was obviously disconnected. Everybody was disconnected. There was no commonality to it. So we're like, hey, you know what? We've spent maybe 4 months building this particular research and intelligence. And all that has to happen now is a rep or somebody on my team, our GTM engineer, to literally say type the customer's name into the prompt. And so pretend we're selling to Loftware. So Loftware, and that's all that has to happen. And it'll then say, what do you want? Do you want a pre-meeting dashboard, like a research dashboard? Do you want a landing page? Do you want slides? Do you want ads? Do you want whatever do you want? And so then they can choose if they want the research dashboard. This is what they'll get. So we've harmonized it into a single consistent view that everybody has. So going to visit a customer on Monday, I now have this view that our head of North American sales has, the rep has. We're all on the same page with regards to what's here. But what's in here is like, it'll go to Salesforce. We're just about implementing Gong, ZoomInfo. So it'll collect all of that into one place where you would have to go to 12 different places, and it'll bring up like, hey, we think that these are the actions today. Here's the opportunities. This is just a template, so it's not showing any details. Here's the opportunities that are sitting in Salesforce. Here are the cases. Here's the sentiment that we see. Like, are there too many open cases? Was there negative, feedback in those cases, or positive? Any contacts that we've recently connected with that you like that are part of the cases, or just a part of the opportunity. And so you have a full view of this here, but it also then starts to say, hey, based off of all the research and everything that we know, here's the penetration plan. Here's the single page briefing. Here's the buying center with all of the contacts that we suggest that you reach out to, that you do and then here's cadences that exist for those particular contacts that you may want to reach out to if this is a net new opportunity. So it brings all that stuff. We literally calculated that would have been like, at least 12 different prompts to like 25 different systems, 25 different prompts to 12 different systems, and to gather all of this stuff. And then what do? You're putting it into a Word document or whatever. So this is it's a snapshot into this account today. You can run another one tomorrow, and then it updates it based on whatever, or next week. And so, but it produces the same consistent view every single time for them. But wait, there's more. So for us, a lot of our customers have their own strategic suppliers. We do enterprise labeling, and every part is, has a label on it, essentially, that is a part of the assembly point and a part of the supply chain. So if you think of an automotive manufacturer, they have 20,000 different suppliers or whatever that feed into the ecosystem in order for them to assemble that vehicle. So part of the research agent, that's a skill, is it'll go and look to see who their strategic suppliers are, and then it matches against our customer base. And so it will produce this view that will say, hey, there's 22 strategic suppliers that are our customers today. We have a product that literally helps enable this network element called Loftware Connect to connect the dots. And so this hub and spoke is usually like, 30, 40, 50 views here, and it creates that visibility. And that is the most important selling point and unique value proposition of what we do. And the rep or the sales team, it would have taken, it's almost impossible to get that data. Like there's no way without this that they could actually get that level of sophistication because of the integrations, because of what we've built. It's very particular to Loftware, but from a sales perspective, hey, we have 28 common customers of your suppliers. This is why this solution is really important for you.
This is incredible. Okay, two quick things for you, Justin. The first, uh, all of this is being built in Claude. So Claude is calling out to all of the platforms as well, such as it's making the through MCP or connection request out to Salesforce, out to Gong. So it's gathering all of that context and then also doing some additional research and aligning it and unifying it and giving this singular view. Is that how that's working?
So we originally built it in Claude, rebuilt it
Yeah.
in Copilot Studio when they released their new version June 24th or something. So this
Yeah.
is what it looks like. That exact view that I just showed you is built through this agent. And so with the instructions here, with the specific skills that go into like, how do you make sure the dashboard is the same? The Salesforce relevancy and what we want from Salesforce and how to do those queries, and then the account research to do a lot of the things that I was just talking about. So it's built as skills. It then we connect to different SQL queries to Salesforce, and then we have these common files that we use in OneDrive to be able to that's where that template exists, so it knows what to use. But this is where we would add Gong and ZoomInfo and include this here. So this is then shared and published to the sales team or whoever else wants to do it. So all they have to do is type in customer name and it brings it back. This is how we've built this particular one. It's also in a workflow that is called from another step that then generates this. So we're working on a new opportunity is created or an opportunity is moved into a qualify stage. It'll kick this off automatically without the rep having to do anything. So that's the automation steps that we're working on now, where some of this stuff we don't necessarily need to do ad hoc. We spent a lot of time on reducing it. This one production was like $33 in Claude. It was down to like $13, trying to get it down to like $4 or $5 based on the the plan that we have. And so it's a lot of it is the GTM engineer working on streamlining this stuff right now.
How are you stringing together the different workflows and the triggers? Is that all just in Copilot Studio, or is there a N8N or something on underneath the hood?
I may be the only person to have ever said this, but I love the Copilot workflows. They are unbelievably, for me and what we're doing with it, they are, there's far more capabilities that we're not using, but it makes it easy to do. So every single day I get a MQL report to identify hot leads using a different scoring than what we've hard coded and built into, Marketo and such. And I get a daily email. All that is done through workflows. There's a weekly email that goes out to sales that shows opportunities over 75K closing in the next 90 days with no activity on the opportunity. And it lists the accounts and opportunities. All that, those are kind of basic, but that's all done through the Copilot workflows.
That's incredible. Okay, here's another thing just from a market perspective that I wanted to get your take on, because looking at this as in the repository or the AI guide, and then going into your actual research tool, you have so many components in there, especially your vendor and supplier diagram that's highly custom. You know that those signals work specific to your organization. This makes me think about forward deployed GTM engineers or forward deployed AI engineers in companies to actually build and deploy these versus traditional SaaS platforms that are far more rigid and out of the
Yes.
box. Where do you think the market is headed? How are they either going to converge, or how is that going to play out?
Well, one, doing all the things that we want to do is absolutely not sustainable with the pricing models that Claude and Copilot offer, with the amount of tokens and the effort to go, the cost that goes into it. So I think it's like, we've been in a good pilot research, starting point where we're just testing these things. If, everybody was doing the extent that I'm doing, or our GTM engineer, like we'd be another one of those stories that we suddenly spent $100 million without realizing it, or whatever, right? Or $5 million. And so I think that the GTM engineers are there for the ideation, but then the streamlining and the scalability are for deployment engineers. I think from our perspective, the sales and marketing aspect, the GTM engineer is the, AI person who's trying to figure out how to, or the AI people trying to figure out how to effectively redo your business processes. Well, why can't we do some of this stuff in Salesforce? Or why can't we do some of this stuff in Gong? For me, like those are, end nodes of the spoke. And so like I have Copilot or Claude at the center of everything, that either we get a CSV, XLS, or a direct integration, and we're building in a single place, because Gong, Salesforce, all those have their own AI tools. But they don't offer currently the flexibility to build these mini apps, do the vibe coding, to do this stuff. And you then have to integrate those into the others. Like the ecosystem becomes way too complex. So I like at the moment having Copilot or Claude in the center is just not scalable from a pricing perspective to do all these different things. So it's a pick and choose scenario at a certain point.
Okay. That totally makes sense. And I know we're just coming up on time for the podcast, but one other thing I think the people need to see, or at least hear about, is you were doing all of this bespoke custom research, how you're translating that into assets that sales or even your marketing team can leverage, as in personalized digital experiences, personalized landing pages. How is that process working?
Yeah. So honestly, so we work with a company called Follows. Working with them opened my brain up because of some really quality people there as to what's possible. And that kind of gave me, one of the three kickstarts on some of the stuff. The landing pages and working closely with them, like I firmly believe in hyper personalization, and the more that you can tailor, the better, which is obvious. And I'm saying hyper personalization coming from the web market and, and CMS and all that stuff in the past. Like there's personalization, and then there's extreme hyper personalization. And that's what I'm aiming for what we're doing. So these landing pages, I briefly alluded to, we were doing these all manual, and then we're like, we got to figure this out, because like, it's just taking too long. We could do like one every 2 weeks. It was like, it's just not scalable. Like we need hundreds of them, let alone like we're in like single digits of being able to produce like hyper personalized ones versus like campaign oriented ones. So we first started out where we set up a web form with, the request of a customer name and the rep's name and email. That was 3 fields, literally press go. It integrates. I still do this today. SDRs usually use this. That it integrates into Follows then returns a URL custom, but still based on a kind of a more narrow template, and it returns the URL within 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So like, I have a call in 5 minutes. I need a landing page. All right, here you go. Like cool. And then we're like, okay, we really want to like start using some of these other tools, the research and other stuff that we built. So that's when, working with the team at Follows, they gave access to the MCP, and that was like mind blowing of what was possible. So within Claude, we use that same research. It kicks it off, and it builds the most custom, hyper personalized landing pages you could ever imagine. And it's because of the hundreds of thousands. My GTM engineer just said, "Hey, we can't convert all these to Claude because from Claude to Copilot, because Copilot requires 8,000 words or less in the instruction or the skills, and ours were over 500,000. And so
Oh.
right. So he's breaking them all down into micro pieces, which should be done anyhow to help streamline the cost. But it's a significant amount of things that go into that research and then the landing page creation. And I mean, like, I probably nerd out way too much about it, and I'm never satisfied. So we're always adding something every day, but it's all vibe coded. So we basically get a template, a view like this, all filled out. It has a bunch of different elements in the template that aren't even showing here, and it fills it all out. And then basically just in Claude, just say publish, and 5 minutes later, it's published to follows, and you get the return URL, and it's all, all the analytics are built in, all the everything that you'd want to do to track. But it just, it's mind blowing that it literally, anything that you can imagine, you can vibe code, and then whatever you vibe code, you can convert into follows. There are limitations of file size now, and like imagery and all that stuff of like, we have to condense it for the agent kind of, fails at like 250 KB of publishing in one go. So like there's learnings that we've had, but the ability to literally just like whatever you dream of, you can, build into a landing page.
That template looks so great. How are you getting the on-brand governed pages? Is that through skills in Claude, or how are you getting those consistent, strong outputs?
So we set up in Claude Design a proper design system, and then the design system is one of the files that the skills utilizes to make sure that it stays consistent. And then, then it's also, in text built into the skills themselves. And I definitely take liberties as the head of marketing. I'm like, I think I have the right to take liberties. My creative team is like, but like, even like testing out, like I'm big on testing and A/B, but also multivariant testing. Like we're testing out like, the ratio of our brand versus the brand that we're selling to. And we've gone from like 80/20, 90/10, 95/5. Like how much elements should there be from that brand on our page? Well, normally it'd be like, well, that's a lot of work. Or it's literally like, hey, do a ratio of 80/20 this time and let's see what we get. It might be more red. We don't have red in our palette, but like now do outlines. And so it's really like the natural language back and forth with Claude to then figure it out. And then it's, hey, write this permanently to your instructions because I like it, or don't do this again, delete what we just did. And it's just the natural language conversation with Claude at that point.
What's been working really well for you all on the percentage?
So it's the 80/20 seems to be working, the best at the moment. It's a smaller sample size, from my Optimizely days, we would say we're not at stat sig yet. But I think the 80/20 just resonates. Now, we'll never know, is it because of the 80/20 or the content or the customer or the rep, but like obviously we have to isolate some of those things. And so the 80/20 seems to be more favorable, and I don't think anybody notices it necessarily, but it catches their eye a little bit more. That's our hypothesis at the moment. So yes. And then I know we're almost at time, but so we've to answer the question that, the problem earlier, like how does sales know what marketing is doing? We've built a dashboard for reps that is updated a couple times a week that literally includes every single thing marketing and SDRs are doing. So at any given point, the rep can click on their name, click on a customer, or just see overall what campaigns are resonating, how many emails did SDR send into the account, how many people are visiting the landing pages named or guests, how are paid ads doing? I'm missing a bunch of different things, but there's a single view, one page that it's just updated. Nobody has to know when it's updated. They save it to their, browser favorites, and bam, they have access to it. And that, answers so many questions for them and has been a good uptake on what's happening, not just to prove that marketing is doing something, but like, hey, it's a piece to the puzzle is how I explain it to them. So cool, somebody visited a landing page. Cool, somebody looked at this white paper. Cool, somebody opened up this email. Those are pieces of the puzzle that you have to figure out how it all makes sense, but at least there's activity. Or there's no activity on this that says something else. And so it's just a piece to the puzzle that they have a single view. That was 97 clicks into, I think, 5 different systems that they would have had to get that information for one account.
That's insane.
Yeah. So anyhow,
Wow.
I know that was a lot, and you could tell my face got red because I was getting excited about talking about this stuff. But yes.
I'm almost like, we need a round 2 podcast just to get into sales activation and what that looks like. But
Yes.
this was amazing, Justin, and super insightful. Thank you so much for joining. And where is the best place? I know people are going to have questions, especially about what hyper personalized means to you and how you're really doing that. Where is the best place to go find you and ask additional questions?
Yeah, probably on LinkedIn is probably the easiest route. Hit me on there, follow, or whatever happens on LinkedIn, whatever the kids say.
Awesome. Well, we'll also go there to check out Justin's MLB background, like we touched on earlier in the beginning. But thank you again, Justin. Really appreciate having you on, and psyched for our next one and for this to go live.
Great. Thank you so much.
See you, everybody.